Stop apologizing for feeling too much. The world has convinced you that your sensitivity is a weakness to be fixed. It is not. 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man on earth wept so intensely over a letter that his tears soaked the parchment he was reading. That man was Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, the man we call a Stoic. And Stoicism never asked him to stop feeling. Society tells you to toughen up, to grow thicker skin, to stop being so sensitive. The ancients knew something different. They understood that depth of feeling is not a malfunction. It is a capacity. And like any capacity, it can either overwhelm you or serve you, depending on how you learn to direct it. Today, we explore what the Stoics actually taught about emotions, and why their wisdom may be exactly what the highly sensitive woman needs to hear. You know the experience. You walk into a room and immediately feel the tension that no one else seems to notice. A friend says something offhand, and it echoes in your mind for days. You absorb the sadness in the news, the stress of your colleagues, the unspoken disappointment of people you love. By evening, you are exhausted, not from what you did, but from what you felt. And then comes the judgment. You are too sensitive. You are overreacting. You need to calm down. You take everything too personally. So you learn to doubt yourself. You wonder if something is wrong with you. You try to feel less, or at least to show less. You apologize for your tears. You minimize your own needs to avoid being seen as difficult. And slowly, you begin to disconnect from the very awareness that makes you who you are. Here is what the world does not tell you. Approximately 15 to 20% of people are what psychologists now call highly sensitive persons. This is not a disorder. It is a trait found in over 100 species. It represents a particular way of processing the world more deeply, more thoroughly, more completely. Your nervous system is not broken. It is simply calibrated differently. And the Stoics, those ancient philosophers we associate with emotional control, understood something crucial about people who feel deeply. They never asked them to stop. Consider Marcus Aurelius. As a young man studying philosophy, he lost one of his most beloved teachers. The grief overwhelmed him. He could barely get out of bed. One of his attendants, observing this seemingly unstoic behavior, tried to rouse him, thinking that a future emperor should be above such displays of emotion. But Antoninus Pius, Marcus's adoptive stepfather, stopped the attendant and said these words, "Let him be human for once, for neither philosophy nor the empire takes away natural feelings." Let that settle. The man raising the future philosopher emperor did not tell him to suppress his grief. He gave him permission to feel it. This was not weakness, this was wisdom. And Marcus carried this understanding throughout his life. We hear of him in his 50s as emperor, being moved to tears during a speech. Near the end of his life, he wept so intensely while reading about an earthquake that destroyed an entire city that his tears soaked the parchment. The Stoic emperor was a man capable of knowing intense grief. He simply learned how to carry it with wisdom. The modern word Stoic has been corrupted. We use it to mean emotionless, cold, detached. But this is a misunderstanding of what the ancient Stoics actually taught. The Stoics made a crucial distinction between what they called Pathē and Eupatheiai. Pathē were the destructive passions, the emotions that arise from false judgments and overwhelm reason entirely. But Eupatheiai were what they called the good feelings, the healthy emotions that arise from wisdom: joy, rational love, appropriate caution. The goal was never to eliminate emotion. It was to transform destructive reactions into wise responses. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote about this aspiration: to be free of passion and yet full of love. Notice the precision: free of passion, meaning free of the overwhelming reactions that distort judgment, yet full of love, meaning deeply connected, deeply caring, deeply feeling. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, addressed this directly when writing about grief. He said, "Let not the eyes be dry when we have lost a friend, nor let them overflow. We may weep, but we must not wail." The Stoics recognized what modern psychology has now confirmed: suppressing emotions does not work. Brain research shows that stifling emotional responses actually increases activity in the brain sphere center and heightens physiological stress. Suppression backfires. What works is reframing, changing how we interpret situations to shift their emotional impact. This is precisely what the Stoics taught 2,000 years ago. For the highly sensitive woman, this is liberating. The path forward is not to feel less. It is to understand what you feel and to direct that feeling wisely. The Stoics also recognized what they called first movements, the initial involuntary reactions to events: turning pale, a racing heart, tears springing to the eyes, a sharp intake of breath. These are natural bodily responses, not moral failures. Seneca was clear about this. He wrote that if anyone supposes that turning pale, bursting into tears, or similar reactions are signs of passion, he is mistaken. These are first movements. The question is not whether you feel them. The question is what you do next. Between the first movement and a full emotional spiral lies a space, the space of judgment, the space where you can choose. And this is where your sensitivity becomes a strength, because your deep awareness means you can also develop deep wisdom about which thoughts to believe and which to let pass. If this perspective resonates with you, if you are ready to cultivate your own inner serenity, subscribe to Her Stoic Mind. This is where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Let us turn to practice. The Stoics were not interested in philosophy as abstract theory. They wanted tools that worked in the middle of life, in the moments when emotions rise and threaten to overwhelm. The first practice is what we might call the pause between feeling and meaning. When an intense emotion arises, notice the first movement, the bodily sensation, without immediately attaching a story. Say to yourself, "I notice I am feeling," and then describe the sensation: tightness, heat, heaviness, a knot in the chest. Then ask, what interpretation am I giving this? Is it the only one possible? This creates space between feeling and reaction. You are not suppressing the emotion, you are giving yourself a moment to understand it before responding. The second practice is the evening review. Each night, gently examine your day. Ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I let an emotion overwhelm my judgment today? Where did I feel something appropriate and respond wisely? What would I do differently tomorrow? Seneca described this practice in his letters. He wrote, "When the light has been taken away and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over what I have done and said." Do this without self-criticism. You are not your own prosecutor. You are, as Seneca said, a gentle examiner of your own soul. The third practice is reframing. When you catch yourself in an emotional spiral, ask, what would I tell a friend who felt this way? Is there another way to see this situation? What is within my control here, and what is not? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." You do not have to believe the new interpretation immediately. Simply practice generating alternatives. Over time, this rewires how you process difficulty. The fourth practice is preparation. Before entering a potentially overwhelming situation, a family gathering, a difficult meeting, a crowded event, mentally rehearse what might occur. Say to yourself, some people may be stressed. I may feel tired. Tensions may arise. This is natural. My job is not to fix everyone's emotions. My job is only to respond to my own with wisdom. This is based on the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, preparing the mind for challenges before they arrive. It does not prevent difficulty. It prevents being ambushed by it. What changes when these practices take root? You begin to trust yourself again. You stop apologizing for what you feel and start directing it toward what matters. You notice that your sensitivity is not a wound that bleeds at every touch, but an antenna that picks up real information. The tension in the room, the unspoken need, the subtle shift in someone's mood. This is data, and you can learn to process it without drowning in it. The woman who once collapsed after social gatherings begins to move through them with clarity. She still feels everything. She simply no longer believes that feeling everything means she must carry everything. The woman who once spiraled after criticism learns to pause. She asks, is this true? If yes, useful feedback. If no, someone else's error, and their error cannot harm her unless she decides it does. This is not coldness, this is wisdom, and it allows her to show up more fully for the people she loves, because she is no longer depleted by the time they need her. The Stoics never asked you to become stone. They asked you to become like water, capable of great depth, capable of great movement, and also capable of great stillness. Your sensitivity means you notice what others miss. You feel what others ignore. That depth, when channeled through wisdom, does not make you weak. It makes you profoundly alive. Marcus Aurelius wept over earthquakes and lost children. Seneca wrote that there is a comeliness even in grief. The goal was never to eliminate feeling. It was to feel deeply while remaining centered. To love fully without being destroyed by loss. To care without being consumed. You are not too much. You feel deeply. And now you know that the philosophers who shaped Western thought, the ones we call Stoics, felt deeply too. They simply learned how to carry their feeling with wisdom. And so can you. The serenity you seek is not found, it is cultivated. The question is whether you will begin. You deserve the peace you so freely give to others. Subscribe to her Stoic mind for more wisdom that honors both your strength and your softness. And in the comments tell us, what would you tell your younger self about being too sensitive?